Have you ever been out with a group of friends and they ask you, like, what are your plans for the future? What do you want to do with your life? And you don't know the answer. Or if you are on a date and somebody asks you, like, what your boundaries are, or what are your certain expectations for a relationship, and you don't know. Or if you've ever been in your room alone at night, staring up at the ceiling, and really just questioning, like, what do I like? Like, who am I? Like, I don't know who I am. Now, a lot of this stems back to people pleasing. And it's a topic in a situation that I feel like a lot of people suffer with right now. And in today's video, I want to go ahead and touch on it and kind of give you some things to maybe help you combat that or work your way out of being a people pleaser. Now, if we were to look at Webster's dictionary definition, it is a person who has an emotional need to please others, often at the expense of his or her desires. Now, as people, we want to be liked. As people, we want to be of service to people. Now, when it comes into us doing it at the expense of our own needs or our own well-being, that is when you should really question, like, this is a little odd. Like, why am I doing this? What am I benefiting from this? Why am I doing this, right? And if we were to take a look at people pleasing, this often happens in our adolescence, in our childhood. And this usually happens in families where the parent or guardian are very codependent, or the child is very codependent on the parent or guardian. Now, in their emotions, or the child was in charge of being the peacekeeper of the house. So let's say if the parent was happy, then it was because if the parent's happy, then the kid's happy. But if the parent is unhappy, byproduct, most of the time the child will be unhappy. So that kid wants to be the peacemaker of the household and try to keep everything safe, everything happy, right? A lot of the times, this is getting a little bit more serious, but like when in times where a parent or guardian is unhappy, they could either take it out on the kid, whether that be verbally or physically, and just not create safe situations for the child at hand. So they take that power into themselves. They take on that super extraneous responsibility of caring basically for other people when they shouldn't have to. It should be the other way around. So that is usually where it starts. And I have experienced and also met people like this as well, to where, or have dealt with this in some capacity or another. Now, that's not the only reason why people have developed the people pleasing, but it is most definitely a big source of that. So in order to kind of unwork that and work towards a life where you're not a people pleaser, I want to go through some ways to kind of combat that. Now, the first thing I would recommend you doing is just taking like a benchmark, seeing where you're at currently. When and where do you find yourself people pleasing the most? Is it people at work? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Is it people you don't even know? Acquaintances? Who are you people pleasing to the most? And what type of people pleasing is it? Is it more physical? So are you being asked to do extraneous things? Are you asked to complete somebody else's work? Are you asked to take care of certain errands that you don't want to do, or go to certain places that you don't want to go to, or hang out with certain people that you don't want to hang out with? Or B, is it more emotional? Are you taking on specific roles? Like, are you being a stand-in therapist for some people? Are you just there so people can unload and then they don't do the same for you in return? So I want you to really reflect on where you're at and where your people pleasing is at, because the only way to get into a new situation where you're not a people pleaser anymore is you have to know where you're starting from, right? You have to know where the start line is to get to the finish line. Now, I also want you to think about, like, what are you interested in at the time, like right now? What are you curious about, if anything? Like, do you even know what you're interested in, actually? Because as a people pleaser, you do everything and anything to help anybody else out, right? And that's at the expense of yourself. So I've said this before in a previous video, but you're the best molded version of you to fit another person's need or want or hole that they have in their life, right? You'll mold this fake pseudo person to fit them. It's not you. It's somebody you made up that perfectly fits the person they need, right? You painted a perfect person for them. So I want you to, just figure out where you're at. Do you have interests? Are you curious about anything? Do you have any boundaries is the biggest one. And if so, how often do they get crossed? And how often do you let people know when they cross them? So I want you to, take note of this, whether that be in a journal, whether or not you want to speak into a phone, a camera, or a video. Now, this is a video that you don't have to show anybody. You can delete it right after, actually, if you'd like. But just getting this out, getting the feelings out, getting that benchmark out, and just seeing where you're starting. So that would be my first recommendation. And then the second one is remove any person in your life that does not benefit you whatsoever. Now, this is going to sound a little bit shallow, but I do think that every relationship has to have a win-win in it, whether that be platonic or romantic. Now, what I mean by win-win is they have to you have to benefit from them in some sort of way, right? It's transactional almost, not in the needs of money. I mean, it could be in some cases, but do you find emotional comfort in them? Do you find physical comfort in them? Do they make you comfortable in and of itself? Now, do you learn from this person a lot? Is this more like a teacher-student situation or a student-student situation? Are they a business partner? Are they whatever it may be? Are you both making money from this situation? Are you making money and are they learning? There are countless different situations where people can be in a win-win situation, but when it's not win-win anymore, the relationship is irrelevant, right? And I'm not saying like one thing happens and I didn't like that, I didn't gain anything from that. I'm talking about the overall friendship or the overall relationship with somebody. And if you're not gaining anything from it, months, years down the line, maybe it's time to erase them out of that. Or if they are a very toxic person, or if it's somebody who doesn't respect your boundaries, if it's somebody who peer pressures you, if it's somebody who is just somebody you don't want to be around. Now, there is somebody by the name of, his name's Alex Hormozy, and he's a genius in my opinion, but he is a business, he's an entrepreneur, and he said once that you have to be in a season of no. So you have to, and there's also seasons of friends. So when you have a friendship that has ran its course, that season has passed, that season is no longer existent, that's okay. Fall comes and goes, summer comes and goes, but new seasons will always come again. So you have to be willing to release that previous season and to move on to the next one. You don't want to be stuck, right? You don't want to have a leech of somebody, in a sense, like just hang on to you the whole time and keep you stagnant. There was also another person who once told me that you have to, if we have two cups, and one is yours and one is another person's, if your cup is full and all you do is you keep pouring it into somebody else's glass or multiple people's glasses, right? You're just sharing it around. Then you're not going to have any left for you. So, and if we think about water as time or any other type of currency, time, life, energy, if you give all of that away, then you're left with nothing. You're just going to wither away. So get rid of everybody who's leeching off of you, everybody who does not benefit you anymore. And the next one is to start validating yourself, right? You could be surrounded with people that always talk down on you, or even yourself. You talk down on yourself as well. You want to stop that. You want to eradicate that from your life as soon as possible. And you want to stop caring what people think. Now, as humans, we care, right? We want people to like us. We want to find some sort of validation. And for the first person should be from yourself. This should be the most selfish thing that you do. In terms of video games, right? This is a solo game in terms of games. And in order to keep playing the game, which is life, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your health, and you have to take care of your emotional health and everything else before you can even do anything in the game or even complete the game, right? So you have to make sure you yourself is okay. Now, with that, we have to kind of like I said before, we care what people think. Now we should just change it to where the pool is smaller. We shouldn't care what everyone thinks. We should care what a select few people think. It takes less pressure off yourself, and you have more space to be yourself. So whether that be, I'm just going to use this as an example, but like 5 people, right? So like the 5 closest people in your life, whether that be family or friends, only care what they think. Because they want what's best for you, so you can have the time to be selfish, flourish, and be the person you want to be. They're going to like you regardless. And if they don't, like I said before, take them out. But you don't need to care what everybody thinks about you. Only a select few people that you choose yourself. Now, and then after that, I want you to just start speaking nicely to yourself. Start validating yourself. Start small. Start, like in the mirror, there's a high five effect. I forget who found it out or who coined it or who originally started doing it, but you want to go, every time you see yourself in the mirror, high five yourself. It's going to make a positive correlation with yourself. And I want you to, there's a bunch of different things. You could do affirmations. You could, even if you don't believe it, write it down. You could speak it out loud, right? I'm in control. I am healthy at setting boundaries. I am able to go about life the way I want to. I am in control of my own life. You could do all of these. And that could be the start of you starting your self-validation. You don't rely on anybody else's opinions, anybody else's needs. You yourself are in control. Now, next one is I want you to learn how to say no. Now, this one is a tough one because you don't want to disappoint people, especially as a people pleaser. And if you've been one your entire life, right, this is probably going to be the most powerful word that you can use, one singular word. And I know it's very intimidating. Like you don't know how to use that. You haven't exercised that muscle in your vocabulary, in your brain, and in your actions. And it doesn't have to be a solid no, but if somebody you're acquainted with or one of your friends asks you to do something, or somebody at work asks you to do something, just say, I'm busy right now, I can't do that. Or I'm not sure right now, like I'll get back to you. See, that isn't a direct no yet, but you have created enough space and enough time for you to build up the courage to say no if you aren't able to do that right off the bat. Now, you also want to think about your time as well. Even if it's something that you don't mind doing, but it's not something that you want to do, say no. Time is the most valuable asset, currency that you have for yourself. And you also want to have enough of it for yourself. You don't want to keep giving it to other people. You don't want to keep handing out all the money that you just made or all that money that you've saved up. You want to keep some for yourself. So learn how to say no. Learn how to say no to certain situations. If you don't want to hang out with people that day, then don't. And if it's one of your super closest friends, or even if it's your parents or a family member, and you had something that you wanted to do that day, say no, I'm busy right now, I can't. Unless it's an emergency, obviously. There are most definitely cases and points to where that is feasible, like, right? Like, you sometimes, and most of the time you probably shouldn't say no to those. But any other situation besides that, learn how to say no. It's going to do you wonders. It's going to open up a whole new world to yourself. But the next point is, I would like you to have a destination. Now, what I mean by destination is have a goal, or have something that you're setting. Yeah, just have a goal. And whether that be from the first point that I had, where you did like a benchmark of, am I people pleasing more emotionally? Am I people pleasing more physically? And where is it happening? Is it happening at work? Is it happening at home? Is it happening with your friends? set a smaller goal for those. So somewhere to start, something that's feasible, and something that maybe is like a little bit less prevalent, right? If you are people pleasing at work and that's the one that's happening the least out of at home or out with friends, start with that one. Start with setting those boundaries with that one. Start with saying no with that one. Something that's smaller, something that is easier, not saying it's easier achieved than the others. Just so you can prove to yourself that you're able to do this. You are able to go about that. And I also want you to set, I don't want to say a time frame, but almost a time frame of when you want to complete this. How fast do you want to achieve this goal? And I've met quite a bit of people who always say, oh, but like, I mean, like, I've been a people pleaser my like entire life, and it's very hard. Like, I've tried multiple times before to not be one anymore, but it's just so hard, and I always fall back into those habits again. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay to admit that and then do something about it now. Is it more painful for you to stay in a people-pleasing role for the rest of your life, or is it more painful to start setting boundaries and start working towards not being a people pleaser anymore, and then maybe for the rest of your life you're not a people pleaser anymore? There two are tunnels. One has a light at the end of the tunnel and one does not. Which pain do you want to pick? One that ends eventually, or one that is a constant pain for the rest of your life? So you really have to be honest with yourself. You really have to set a goal. You really have to make a commitment and stay with that commitment in order to find your light at the end of that tunnel. So have a goal, one, have a destination, two, have a goal and have a time frame for that goal. Otherwise, you'll never achieve it. You could always say that you're working towards it, but there could be no action behind it. Make sure you have a commitment and action behind your goal. And keep it. Otherwise, you're going to lose trust in yourself and you're not going to want to do it again. And last but not least, I want you to spend time with yourself. And this is like genuine time. I want you to either journal, read books, figure out what you enjoy, figure out who you are. And like I said before, if you are, or maybe not, but if you are at home all the time, but you're just on social media, if you're scrolling, if you're watching movies, TV shows, nothing to actually help anything, you're literally just you're rotting your life away, you're wasting your time. When you could be getting to the source of that problem, I want you to actively spend time figuring out who you are, right? And like I said before, journal, read books, watch documentaries, or even some social media is okay if you're on the right channels, but I would not recommend it, but you can if that's the way you want to go. But just figure out what you like. Get outside, talk to people, meet people, do different things that scare you maybe. Just figure out who you are, figure out what you like, and not at the benefit of anybody else. Do something that you enjoy. Anyways, that was my take on people pleasing and kind of the steps to go about doing that. And just to recap it, 1, take a raw look at your life, get a benchmark, and figure out where you're at. Know where your starting line so you can get to the finish line. And 2, remove people that don't benefit you anymore. Get them out. We don't want them. We don't need them. 3, start validating yourself. Do that speak nice to yourself. I'm sorry. Do the high five effect. Do affirmations. Stop caring what other people think if they're not in your close circle. And I'm talking about like your smallest close circle, the people that you are the closest to. Next, learn how to say no. And 5, have a destination. Set the goal, set the time frame, and last but not least, spend time with yourself. Figure it out. Set some boundaries. Figure out your morals, and don't stress if it's, say you make it up today and you feel like you have to follow that the rest of your life. No. Life changes all the time. If you set a certain moral, if you have a certain boundary, they don't have to stay that boundary forever. They don't have to stay that moral forever. If you learn more, if you have learned life, or if you have certain life experiences that change that, then that's okay. all of this is going to be fluid. All of this is going to change. Everything has a different season. And you just want to make sure that your glass is always full, and you want to make sure that you're able to learn and use these, I don't want to say coping, but use these steps to ride those waves of life, to ride those changes in the season. Anyways, it has been a pleasure, and I will see you guys in the next video. And go ahead and drop a comment, actually, if for what type of video you want to see next. Anyways, I will see you guys in that next video. Peace.